This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
All right, just a heads up, Real Talkers. This conversation may make you uncomfortable. It may affirm what you've always thought. It may challenge your beliefs. It may fly in the face of your deepest conviction. And it has absolutely nothing to do with politics. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. We're about to talk to the former director of the BC Centre for Disease Control. Maybe there's a political angle to this, but we're talking about vaping today. You've seen it. Maybe you vape. Maybe you're using it to quit smoking. Maybe vaping led you to smoke. Isn't that part of the concern? Maybe you've heard things about popcorn lung. Maybe you've been walking down the sidewalk and seen that telltale vapor cloud in front of you, that huge one. Everybody remembers the smoke doors. I may be aging myself a little bit outside high schools. Everybody's been in that experience where you step outside your office building or outside a restaurant or outside a concert venue, and there's everybody, the smoke pit, so to speak, those clouds of tobacco smoke. Well, nothing rivals the vape cloud. It's actually quite magnificent, but it also, of course, manifests itself into the awareness and the experience of anybody anywhere near. Vaping is its own thing, used oftentimes as a smoking cessation tool, used by others, maybe folks who have never smoked a day in their life, as a recreational endeavor, or maybe something that helps people relax. But as far as we know, or at least the public perception, is that the science on vaping is out. People don't really know if vaping's good or bad for you. People hear about things like popcorn lung. They wonder if they're putting themselves at long-term risk without even knowing it. We've asked you time and time again on this show, and you have taken us up on it, to send us your segment ideas, to let us know what you'd love a feature interview on, and vaping has been a recurring subject again and again. So we wanted to reach out to one of Canada's, maybe one of the world's most foremost experts on this. He literally wrote a book on vaping, and ask what he thinks. And so coming to you in our feature interview, presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, Dr. Mark Tyndall is an infectious diseases and public health doctor, former director of the BC Centre for Disease Control. His career's been focused on HIV prevention and drug policy reform. He is the author of Vaping, Behind the Smoke and Fears, and he's making his Real Talk debut. Doctor, thank you for making time for us from Vancouver. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Ryan. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, so, hey, cards on the table. Do you vape?
I don't.
Okay. How did vaping first get on your radar?
Well, I have a long history of working in harm reduction, mostly around HIV prevention. And people think of harm reduction primarily as people who use harder drugs and things like needle exchange and supervised injection site and safe supply or activities and research projects I've been involved in over the years. And I was working in Ottawa about 2012, and I had a cohort of people who were using harder drugs and were HIV positive. And I established a community group there of people from the community who could help me with the research as far as translating our findings. And they all smoked. And when I looked at the data that we were collecting, most of the health outcomes that I was tracking were smoking related and had nothing to do with HIV or drug use. And I heard about vaping in the media around 2011, 2012, and thought that this was a really important intervention for the people that I was working with who were using other drugs, and introduced vaping products to them, and they loved it. And yeah, the rest is history. So it's been about 12 or 13 years since I I took an interest in vaping as harm reduction.
When you first encountered it, like my experience, so I want to put my cards on the table here as well for the benefit of the conversation as well as for the interest of the audience. And our live chat, by the way, powered by Park Power Doctor, is already banging on this. So we're gonna have lots of audience feedback here. I'm looking forward to it. But my experience with vaping products is more on the cannabis front as opposed to the nicotine or the tobacco alternative front. I've actually, like, aside from a couple of times of just giving it a whirl, checking out to see what it tastes like, I've never really regularly vaped, so to speak. Is there any difference, as far as you know, or medically speaking, between the nicotine or the tobacco alternatives versus the cannabis vapes, just so we can kind of focus our conversation?
Well, the principle is much the same. The damage that you do to your lungs and other organ systems are because you're burning combustible material and sucking in all the toxins. And cannabis has many of the same toxins as tobacco. So if you're after THC, it's much better to get that through a vaping product, just like nicotine. It's much better to get through a vaping product rather than burning combustible tobacco. Obviously, people who smoke cigarettes tend to do it much more. So somebody who smokes a joint a day versus somebody who smokes 20 cigarettes a day, the cigarette user exposes themselves to more toxins, but the toxins are similar. And both in any time you burn some sort of material, you ignite a whole bunch of chemicals that you're sucking into your body, and none of them have any good outcomes.
Okay, so I think that some people here in the first 2 minutes of this interview, maybe they found this on YouTube, or they were compelled by the title of the podcast, and they figure that a public health doc is going to come on this show and condemn vaping and talk about how it's a gateway to tobacco use. And right now, they might be a bit discombobulated, because it sounds like not only are you not inherently against it, but you actually sound somewhat supportive of it in a way. I'm not saying you're handing them out at high schools, but where do you land on it? Am I on the right track?
I'm 100% supportive of it. I mean, I look at it from a perspective of people who smoke cigarettes, and I think in 2025, if people knew the information, the correct information around vaping, nobody would light up a cigarette anymore. It's just so 1960s. Like it doesn't make any sense if you're smoking because you want the nicotine that you use the most dangerous delivery system to obtain that nicotine. So the book's really about aimed at people who smoke cigarettes, and for the most part have been misinformed by public health and leading tobacco control people that somehow it's just as bad and it's no different, and it's entirely different. And I think that not only is it different, it has so many advantages for people. Like you don't have to stand there for 5 minutes and take 20 puffs, in the rain. You can use it much more conveniently. It comes in flavors. It doesn't stink up your clothes. There's no impact to bystanders. So it has so many advantages for the user and for society. We don't fill our parks and rivers with cigarette butts. I mean, there's just so many advantages to this that I can't see why we still offer cigarettes to people when they could have a product that's much superior.
Okay, I have a million questions for you, and the future of cigarettes is on that list. But I want to talk to you about the flavors. Vaping, as far as I can tell, appears to be quite a pleasant experience. Everybody I see loves it. This is coming across sounding like a vaping commercial, which it's not. But I know that we'll have differing opinions here on the live chat, and we'll get to those in a minute. We had a couple of doctors on the show yesterday with us, Dr. Sheila Wijayasinga and Dr. Shazma Mathani. They're the co-hosts of the Doc Talk podcast. We talked about a million different things, and one of them was, the youth of today and how drinking appears to be down. Generally speaking, today's young people are drinking less. The doctors flagged, though, the uptick in vaping. And I mentioned that you were going to be joining us in this next episode. And so I know intrigued to hear what you have to say. But I know that medical professionals do have concerns around young people vaping. And in particular, if we look at, some of Health Canada's actions, we've talked about cigarette branding before. We've talked about pulling the bans off cigars before. We've talked about getting rid of menthol cigarettes. The idea is that enjoyable or more attractive flavors tend to hook the young into deep addiction and bad habits. How do you sort through that with your informed opinion?
Well, I think they're two separate issues. I mean, the vaping should be heavily promoted to people who smoke cigarettes, and will save their lives. We deal with a lot of risky behaviors or risky activities of youth, and I think that vaping should be, approached similarly, although we've way overshot with our warnings to youth about vaping, and parents and society are just bombarded with misinformation about youth vaping, and how the only reason we have flavors is to hook youth. I mean, that's just not right. The sales of vaping products to ex-smokers, 90% of them use flavors. Everybody loves flavors, so the flavors are not there to attract just youth. And I think that it's fascinating the way social media has played into youth vaping. In Canada, youth vaping peaked in 2018, and the main Canadian survey said that 27% of high schoolers had tried vaping. That's much different than 27% who are regularly vaping, and that's still less than people who have tried cannabis and tried alcohol. So it's certainly out there as on the list of things that youth will may try, and but there's no evidence that those kids have gone on to smoking cigarettes. In Canada and North America, teen smoking is at historical lows, less than 1%. So clearly by now, if vaping had led to a whole new generation of smoking, that would have happened, and it just hasn't happened, and it wouldn't happen because smoking is so vilified among young people. So it's just not a cool thing to do. Vaping became a cool thing to do, but as I say, it peaked in 2018, and the surveys since then have gone down. So vaping among high school kids now, 10-15% try it, and there's a small percentage who vape daily, so maybe could be considered dependent on nicotine. But that is far less than the kids who used to smoke cigarettes regularly. So if it's replaced cigarettes, that's a public health win because it's not nearly as toxic, and people are much more likely to be able to quit vaping than cigarettes. So I think that there's been a moral panic. I write this in my book around youth vaping that's far out of sync with the actual risk. And I think that obviously I'm not out there promoting vaping to young people, but we can't have policies that are solely geared to dissuading youth from trying vaping at the expense of reducing access to people who smoke cigarettes.
When you talk about those policies, can you give us an example of one you see right now that you think is boneheaded, quite frankly?
Well, the big discussion about vaping or flavors in vaping, 4 provinces in Canada banned flavors. And it's shown that it's useless because flavors are still widely available, and it just drives everything to the black market. So the prohibition of flavors doesn't work on many levels, and but it does make it more difficult for smokers to access flavored vapes, and I think that's an obvious mistake. Certainly, some countries and some provinces have considered, putting vaping behind pharmacy shelves and or behind the counter, and when cigarettes are widely available. So anything that we do that is designed to stop people from accessing should always favor vaping. So vaping taxes should be lower. Places where people can vape should be different from cigarettes. So we should always make the lower risk product more accessible to people.
Dr. Mark Tyndall is our guest. He's the author of Vaping, Behind the Smoke and Fears. In our live chat, Doc, powered by Park Power, I want to rattle through a bunch of these. I'll give you a chance to respond. Kathy says, I don't know about that no effect to bystanders. She says, I'm allergic to smoke and I have a hard time breathing around vapors as well. Marie says, we're filling our landfills with plastic vape things. I think that was a response to the cigarette butt comment. Les says he tried vaping about 14 years ago to try quit smoking. He says it didn't work and I hated vaping. Tony says the only substance that should get in your lungs is clean air, not smoke from cigarettes or vapes. Dubious says there's a recent study that showed a lot of lead and heavy metals from vaping, apparently from the heating element itself. Doc, have you seen that? Are you familiar with that?
I mean, these are all the misinformation that I've heard. I mean, I think most of that is just wrong. You did mention in your opening about big plumes of smoke, and that's possible, but most vaping products, the pod-based ones, there's very little smoke, or people can control it. They can, choose to blow a big plume of smoke, but if they can do it quite subtly. There's been studies that there's really no toxins that are transmitted to bystanders through this. There's nicotine in it, but in very low levels that go away much quicker than they do with smoking. I'm not saying that everybody, you don't want to go in a restaurant and somebody's blowing mango. Also, I'm fine with that, and I totally agree. Breathing fresh mountain air is the best thing we can do for people, but this is called harm reduction. And if people are sucking in combustible smoke into their lungs that we know kills them, we have an alternative that won't kill them. And if you have a loved one who smokes cigarettes, I'm sure you've talked to them many times about quitting cigarettes, and they don't. So it's just a kind of pragmatic approach to things that, sure, if people can quit altogether, great. But we know with the available smoking cessation tools that we have, such as nicotine patches and gums and things, the success rate is less than 10%, probably closer to 5%. So, this is just a very practical approach to things. When people said, they tried vaping and they hated it, okay, I mean, that's fine. Some people will hate it. Most people don't. I've had the opportunity in the past few years to visit many vape shops, talk to many people who have switched. There's about estimated about 2.5 million vapors in Canada right now. They like it. So obviously there's going to be people who don't, but this isn't, and I'm not saying that everybody will love vaping and quit cigarettes, but I think there's an opportunity for a large proportion of people to transition, and that's what I'm advocating for.
Mark, we'll have your web link in the show notes on the podcast and on YouTube, but people can check out drmarktyndallauthor.com. You describe yourself on your website. I love this. You say, I'm an accidental advocate for vaping. You go on to say, and a passionate voice for tobacco harm reduction. You talk about the life-saving power of harm reduction up close. You've talked about cigarette smoking and how it sabotages global health efforts. You say this isn't just theory, it's a public health revolution. You say it's time the world paid attention. You talk about the moral panic around vaping. Cat Rex is watching us now in our live chat, says, hang on, this guy's a doctor? I'm going to go ahead and assume that your take on vaping, your accidental advocacy for it, doesn't land perfectly with every colleague of yours in medicine. Probably a relatively controversial position. Has it been?
Very controversial. Yeah, so I'm an outsider for this for sure. But I've also been an outsider for needle exchanges and supervised injection site and safe supply. I mean, so I'm kind of used to it. But there is a kind of an international smear campaign for anybody who's involved with promoting vaping. So, big organizations like the World Health Organization is out there trying to get whole countries to ban vaping and safer nicotine products, which I think is immoral and totally wrong-headed. But no, the tobacco control, the traditional tobacco control people are remaining abstinence-based. They came out very strongly against vaping right from the beginning, and I think they find they have nowhere to turn now but to continue to double down on their, I think, irrational approach to safer products. In Canada, we're even battling with nicotine pouches. So here's something that's basically benign. People are dependent on it, but it doesn't have any real health consequences except to provide people nicotine. And this is something that could be highly effective for people who are trying to quit smoking. And we're stuck in a ridiculous, irrational loop of people trying to ban it and restrict it. And so, so I know I'm not the most popular kid on the block as far as tobacco control goes. And interestingly, I don't come from a long history of tobacco control. I'm not a tobacco researcher. As I said, I kind of fell into this as a harm reduction specialist or advocate, and maybe it's useful for me to look from the outside in to tobacco control, which is, as I say, been totally abstinence based, and they remain that way. And I find it just, the tobacco control people now have turned to nicotine. So they can't argue anymore that vaping is safer. It's irrefutable. It's probably 95% safer. And the things you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like popcorn lung, doesn't exist with vaping nicotine. Like, it's never happened. And somehow this has become part of the folklore of vaping. And so the tobacco control people have now tried to turn their attention to nicotine eradication, as though the world will be nicotine free in 10 years. And it's just never going to happen. And in my mind, there's no reason it needs to happen.
Okay, Doc, hang tight, because there's a few things I want to ask you, but I want to circle back on the popcorn lung thing. It's the most recurring question in our live chat right now. I want to ask you about the black market, and I want to dig into those. My buddy calls them lip pillows, those Zonic pouches that people are using as well. I know you just touched on that, but I have a follow-up there. We're talking to Dr. Mark Tyndall in our feature interview presented by our friends at Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. We also wanted to make sure, Real Talkers, that if you're anywhere near the Metro Edmonton region, our proud hometown, we're coming to you live right now from the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. Our friends just a few blocks over at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce are getting ready for a couple of big events going on, including their 56th annual Edmonton Chamber Golf Tournament. I'm thrilled to be returning as your host. Make sure you mark your calendar for September 16th. If you don't yet have your tickets, you got to get them, because it sells out every single year at the Quarry. It's a full day of networking, very friendly competition, and soaking up that September sunshine. You can get your tickets today at edmontonchamber.com. They've also got their next August Coffee with the Chamber coming up on the 26th of this month on the rooftop of the Ice District Canadian Brewhouse. Last month, more than 300 businesses turned out to connect at Commonwealth Stadium, expecting another great crowd just a block from our studio here at Mercer Warehouse. That's at the Ice District Canadian Brewhouse on August 26th. All details at edmontonchamber.com. If you're a successful Canadian that's built a business, that has forged a career that you're very proud of, there's a very good chance that this time of year, summer, you're probably pausing and taking some time to reflect not just on your career, but your retirement goals as well. At North Road Investment Council, they're working with Canadians who've built successful careers and now want to ensure that their wealth is being organized to deliver a successful retirement. The typical North Road client comes from analytical, detail-driven professions. They work with a lot of dentists, a lot of architects, a lot of engineers. If that sounds like you, the team at North Road is interested and open to a conversation. You can connect with them. Let them know that Jespo sent you at northroadic.com. Start a conversation built on clarity, discipline, and true alignment. I told you how thrilled we were to have family in from out of town this past weekend. The Derlegos visiting from Winnipeg. Talked to my wife's cousin Jordan. I said, what's one thing you got to try before you leave Alberta? He says, what do you think? Alberta beef. So you know where we went. We went to Friesen Brothers. Saw some great options there at the butcher shop at Friesen Brothers, but we wanted something custom. We needed our T-bones cut a little thicker. than the ones that they had offered. And so, of course, we talked to their butcher. They're real butchers. That's what Friesen Brothers, one of the things they're so very proud of. And boy, did he ever deliver. The perfect cuts on demand. Everybody was thrilled when those hit the barbecue. Topped it off with some warm potato salad. We never miss that at Friesen Brothers. That's our recipe for a perfect barbecue. What's yours? Discover it today at Friesen Brothers. 16 different Alberta locations celebrating 70 years this year. Check out their Family Essentials flyer at friesen.com. That's FRESON.com. Dr. Mark Tyndall, our guest, the author of Vaping, Behind the Smoke and Fears. We'll get to our live chat in just a quick second. Doctor, there's a lot of questions about this popcorn lung, so to speak. Just a quick Google search here. I'm not professing to be an expert. Do they call it, is it bronchiolitis obliterans? Is that it? A rare and serious lung disease? I know that back in the day, it kind of earned its nickname, popcorn lung, because this chemical that was used to flavor microwave popcorn was proving to prompt coughing and shortness of breath, wheezing, and the like. And reportedly, it's still being found in some e-cigarette liquids, which I guess has been raising concerns about its potential link to vaping. What's the truth around popcorn lung? I've heard it a ton of times from a ton of different people as like the number one thing to be concerned about.
Yeah, it's incredible how that has permeated the vaping discussion. So in 2004, there's a actual popcorn factory in Missouri, and 8 people who were heavily exposed to diacetyl developed this life-threatening lung disease, irreversible lung disease, and and they tracked that down to the chemical diacetyl, which was poisoning people's lungs. And then they found some flavors with very tiny concentrations of diacetyl in it, used for the same buttery flavoring. When the reports came out about this around vaping, companies took diacetyl out of it. So there was a survey in Canada. They looked at over 800 flavorings and found small amounts of diacetyl in 2 out of 800. So the companies don't put diacetyl in it, but it was never enough diacetyl to cause anything like popcorn lung. There was a Canadian Medical Association journal published a report of somebody that was suspected popcorn lung. It was a horrible case report, wouldn't stand up to any medical journalism, somehow got published, and it became the most cited article of the year in the Canadian Medical Association journal, and that set off an international concern around this. But it's never been associated with vaping nicotine, and even early on, when some flavors did contain diacetyl, the concentration was not anything that could cause a popcorn lung. So it's a totally fabricated folklore around vaping. So people who vape, they can not put popcorn lung on concerns. On their list of concerns. It's just not a thing.
I'll recognize that your book is about vaping, not about the nicotine patches, the pillows. What do you actually call them? You know, the things I'm talking about, they kind of look like
pouches, nicotine pouches.
Yeah, the pouches. People put them, behind their lip, kind of like you would with chewing tobacco back in the day, and,
right.
it serves as a sort of a nicotine alternative, or rather, I guess a smoking cessation tool. That's the idea behind them. The ones that are legally available in Canada, as I understand it, have about 4 milligrams of nicotine in them. For those watching on YouTube or our live stream presented by California Closets, Johnny's now showing some of the other brands that are available, in the United States and around the world. Doc, I know for a fact that many Canadians use, I guess you'd call them black market sites, because that's what they are, to procure the higher nicotine pouches, up to 20 milligrams I've seen from other sources internationally. Now, anecdotally, I can say that I've seen a ton of people using these, many of whom, and I know them personally, were not smokers, were never smokers, and now this is one of their indulgences, so to speak. You've described them as benign or as relatively harmless, but with those pouches, with vapes, curiously, the pouches only available, at least in our home province of Alberta, I don't know in BC, you got to go to a pharmacy to get them. Like, 7-Eleven can sell you basically everything else, including cigarettes, but they can't sell these pouches. You got to go into a drugstore to get them, which I thought was interesting. Do you think that the pouches, do you think that vapes, I mean, if these truly are a smoking cessation tool, if these truly are a road away from smoking for current smokers, do you think that they should be in some way regulated or limited to those who have a doctor's note, however it would be administrated, somebody that's currently smoking? Do you have concerns about people that aren't smokers purchasing the pouches or the vapes?
Look, my whole career has been in public health. I'm all about regulation. I mean, we want to give people the right information, they can make informed decisions. And for pouches, and those informed decisions should be based around the risk. And the pouches have very little risk. And if you can stop smoking by putting a pouch in your mouth, you are so much further ahead. And you bring up the idea that people like these or use these more recreationally because of the nicotine and they weren't smokers. And I think people going into this with their eyes wide open, I don't feel it's reasonable for me as a doctor to say this is going to be harmful for you. Nicotine has many useful properties for people. That's why they smoke. Nicotine increases your awareness, helps with your memory and your focus. And it calms people down. So there's many pharmacological impacts of nicotine, and that's why people like it. So I think that with the availability of pouches, there will be people who try nicotine for the first time and find it's helpful to them. And I think it's fine. I mean, this comes from snus, which has been available in Sweden for decades, and Sweden has the world's lowest cigarette use. They are the first large country to reach less than 5% of the adult population smoking, and it's attributed entirely to snus. And snus is a powdered tobacco used much the same way as pouches, but the pouches don't even have tobacco in them, so they're much safer. Snus has proved to be very safe, but the pouches are more convenient, less messy, and have less stuff in them. So I think people should be informed properly that you will find that this nicotine may be helpful to you, and it should be your choice whether you want to use it. I don't use it, but all the restrictions should be in line with the relative risk of these products. And if you can buy cigarettes that kill you, guaranteed, at a grocery store, 7-Eleven, and then you have to go behind a counter of a pharmacy or get a doctor's note to get a pouch, to me, that makes absolutely no sense.
The doctor, it was December of 2000, so 25 years ago. To mark our university graduation, me and 5 friends headed down to South America, spent a number of months down there. It was an incredible time. A buddy of mine was an enthusiastic smoker at the time, about a pack a day Marlboro Reds. And we got into an interesting conversation about the future of tobacco legislation. And he predicted in December of 2000 that within the next 10 years, cigarettes would be outlawed in Canada. I said, no way. We bet $100 on it. We wrote it down on paper. I still have yet to collect. Steve Redekop owes me $100 from our bet back in 2000. But I know that a lot of people have felt like cigarette smoking should be outlawed, that the government should ban it, that the cost, the strain on the healthcare system is so immense that taxes collected simply don't justify its legal status. At this, on the flip side, obviously, millions of people have been smoking for many years and are grappling with an addiction that I've seen compared to other, some of the most highly addictive substances on planet Earth. Nobody knows more about that than you. I'm not going to lecture you on that, but I've heard it speculated, and I think I probably tend to agree that governments lack the political will to outlaw cigarette smoking and probably, if we're being realistic, open the door to millions of dollars in sales and revenue for the black market. What's your position on the future of tobacco, regulated and legal tobacco sales, most particularly cigarettes in Canada?
Well, we've tried to do that through taxation. So we've driven many people away from commercial cigarettes by high taxes. And across Canada, a pack of cigarettes is anywhere from $15 to $30. And that means that almost half of all purchases of cigarettes now are from the illegal market. So we've already created this. So you could ban it tomorrow, and then 100% of purchases would be from the illegal market. And then what do you want to build, like an army of officers going around arresting people, throwing people in jail? Or I don't, it would just be mayhem, So there's really no practical solution to banning these products, and we know that people will find them and use them. And what's happened, Australia is a great example where they basically banned vaping, and they've created this massive underworld and violence, and it's turned into like a whole new illegal market. And that's also ridiculous because that's pushing people to buy unregulated products. We want to regulate these products. You mentioned in one of your live feeds that what about the metals and the burning coils and stuff, and that just doesn't happen with commercially manufactured vaping products. There's just no heavy metals in them. But if you open it up to anybody trying to make these and manufacture them on the cheap, and then these things happen. So we need a regulated market. People deserve a safe product, and driving everything underground makes no sense. My whole career has been in illegal drugs. It's horrible. Thousands of people across Canada are dying of fentanyl because of prohibition. We've driven all these drugs underground, and they're distributed by criminal gangs, and people are dying. So this is not a road you want to go down with nicotine products.
Dr. Mark Tyndall is the author of Vaping, Behind the Smoke and Fears. He's former director of the BC Centre for Disease Control. He's a TEDx speaker, an infectious diseases and public health doctor, and the subject of our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Mark, we've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Thanks for making time for us. We appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. Real Talkers, I want to get to the live chat on this. I want to pick Johnny Infamous's brain on this as well. And I know that there's lots of opinions. You can send us, if you're watching or listening to us live on the Mixler audio app, you know where to find us. You can also send us an email. Most of you will catch this episode later to talk@ryanjespersen.com. I'm curious to see where people are going to land on this. I was lucky enough to get out to the Ranch Golf and Country Club yesterday after yesterday's show with a few buddies. And these Zonics, or I know a lot of people call them Zins. That's one of the American brands. But these lip pillows, these pouches, these little pouches.
Dingers.
Dingers, bud. I think a lot of people have maybe seen them and maybe not even known exactly what they are. But and I'm not just trying to sound like the get off my lawn guy at all. But I would say that we maybe have the new cigarette butt on our hands. I noticed right by the ball washing station. Actually, you can show some video because I happened to catch a couple of putts there at the ranch. If you want to show this is my opportunity to have a little fun with the boys. By the way, more on the lip pillows, more on the dingers, more on the pouches in just a sec. First of all, would you look at these greens? Would you look at the condition of the fairways at the Ranch Golf and Country Club right now? Absolutely unbelievable. It's like that's our good buddy Andrew Walker with the putt short. He was very upset about he missed his birdie putt short.
Getting married in a week. Congrats, Walks.
Yeah, congrats, pal. There he goes. He puts it in. Nice par, Walks. Check this out, our buddy Blair. Uphill putt. Would he learn from Walker? You would think he could learn.
Are you going to sink this?
From Walker. Well, let's see. I captured it all in high definition for your viewing pleasure. Look at this putt. Look at this putt. And just shy. Blair felt the heartbreak there on 17 at the ranch. Absolutely beautiful. But yeah, saw it by the ball washing stations there, like right at the tee box. There was like a pile.
Oh yeah.
Like, I want to say there was like 8 of those the dingers, those lip pouches. Somebody had obviously just like dumped them out on the ground with like the garbage can right next to it. But I was thinking at the time, I'm like, that kind of feels like the next cigarette butt if people are going to be leaving those lying around. But those weren't even a thing like 3, 4, 5 years ago, were they?
No.
I mean, Doc talks about in Sweden, a buddy of ours, Dustin Johnner, played in the SHL there, played pro in Sweden, and I remember him coming back and saying, buddy, everybody in Sweden uses these nicotine lip pouches, and they're up at like the 10, 20 milligrams, which I think is quite. I've never tried one. I think it'd probably knock me on my ass. But I know in Sweden they've used them a lot, and Doctor was just saying they're like the smoking rates in Sweden are very low. I also don't want to ignore, and I want to give voice to a lot of these comments. We'll read your handles and we'll read what you have to say, but a ton of people in the chat are saying there's a difference between people that are going to use these products, including vapes, to get off cigarettes. Is it an entirely different conversation? People that never smoked cigarettes in the first place that are now getting hooked on vaping. I don't know. Where did you land on that conversation? I mean, the guy's got a ton of credibility, obviously. I got to be honest. He did not take the position that I really expected him to take when he first landed on our radar.
No, and I mean, I know this is in response to an episode he saw where he
reached out to us.
Yeah, where we talked about this. And, I don't know exactly where I land on this. I know that nicotine's never going away. It's ridiculous to think that smoking will ever be banned.
You think it's ridiculous that it will ever be banned?
Well,
you think
in
50
a sense,
years from now, maybe?
In a sense, I think someone from 1940 would think it's already banned today. I mean, you can't really smoke anywhere. And if you do, I mean, you're getting gripes and groans and people staring at you.
Yep.
And like the doctor said, the youth of today, it is, I know it sounds funny, like a bunch of older guys talking about it, but we just know. Like, I talk to youth all the time, clubs, bars, whatever. Smoking is disgusting to them.
Yeah.
The smell, it sticks to your clothes, it stains your teeth, all these things, right? So, I mean, we talked about how it's marketed to youth. I kind of sat on the side where, like, those colorful packaging and the flavors, but at the same time, I do agree with the doctor that, like, people who just enjoy nicotine enjoy the flavors as well, right? So I would just say that in general, I would say to kids, don't get on nicotine at all. It's expensive, it's addictive, but if you are on nicotine, I mean, pouches and vaping is a lot better than, like, I can't even believe I see people driving to work today. I was stuck. There was a horrible accident. I'm stuck for 25 minutes before the bridge. And I can't believe people still sit with their windows rolled up, Ryan. Only open like this much and it's just smoking. I saw a few people. I was like, it just seems crazy to me.
People are going to say we're shaming them.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's crazy to me that it still exists. And then you get out and just go to work and you just smell like an ashtray. It's crazy.
As a non-smoker, it's hard to wrap your mind around that, right? But I know that people that smoke cigarettes, and again, we'll look to the live chat. I want to hear from the smokers here.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm a former smoker.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah.
And I know that, like, people, generally speaking, people that smoke love it. But there's a lot of people, I'm sure, but there's a lot of people that would love to quit. But, like, there's nothing in the morning, like, people have their morning dart and their coffee and they don't think twice about, like, if you're stuck in traffic, like, every once in a while, not the worst. You got a decent car stereo. You can crush a couple darts. They love smoking. But yeah, then again, as a non-smoker, and I'm not using this as a shaming exercise, but if you didn't know this already as a smoker, this is our public service to you. When you pop out for a dart at your place of work and then you pop back in,
everyone knows.
Everybody knows. And really nobody is enjoying it.
Dude, when I was a smoker, and then I was never a big smoker, like pack a day kind of thing. I've said this on the show before. I was a guy who had like 3-4 a day.
You're a club DJ. You had to smoke.
Yeah, well, but like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 after dinner, 1 before bed. That was kind of my thing. And so it was easy for me to transition or to quit smoking. But man, when I met my partner and we were getting serious about 10 years ago, it was impossible for me to hide it from her as a non-smoker. I would come home. I would jump right in the shower, shampoo, wash my hands, get out, cologne, brush my teeth. She still as soon as I get in bed, would smell it, right? To a non-smoker, it's just like an alarm going off.
Yeah.
And I used vaping to transition. I'll be honest. I used vaping to quit smoking, and now I'm trying to quit the vaping, which it was a lot at the start. Now it's less. There's weeks where, I take like 4 out of the 7 days off, and I don't vape, in front of people. I don't vape really inside in public areas, and unless it's kind of private, but it's still kind of like,
let's get real.
It's still kind of like an embarrassment thing, even real. Vaping, right?
We are a vape friendly studio.
We're an everything friendly studio.
We're an everything friendly studio. And I would say, like, you know what? I'll tell you what, if with your blessing, and I'll bring my personal
I
experience
use
to
it
the
on
table,
high
but
stress days. I'm puffing away.
Let's get personal. Let's get personal in a second. We'll share our stories, and I want to get to the live chat as well. Before we do, though, we want to recognize, and we rolled this out last week, Real Talkers, let you know how enthusiastic we are to be partnering with Peace Hills Insurance. There's a lot of options out there for you if you're looking at home auto insurance. And of course, you're looking, business products as well for the best product, right? You want premiums that you can afford. You want coverage that you can trust. And obviously, you want real live humans to answer the phone when you call. Peace Hills Insurance is an Edmonton-based insurance company that serves all of Western Canada with home, auto, and business products. One of the things that makes them very unique in the marketplace, and you'll learn more when you check out their website, peacehillsinsurance.com, they're owned by the Samson Cree Nation, and they're driven by their mission through Watokoan. This is Cree word, representing the interconnectedness of all beings, to be a respected national insurer that provides creative and responsive solutions. That is the bedrock upon which this company is built. Their vision is to be a unique insurance company that truly cares. You can learn more about it, including their products, and connect directly with their team by visiting their website. That's peacehillsinsurance.com. Hey, the sun is shining this summer. What a beautiful summer it's been for the most part. And all I can think about right now is all those Real Talkers that went ahead. They got the free solar quote from Solar by Kubi. They had the installation put in, the best, the cleanest installations in the country, and now they are reaping the rewards. I mean, imagine opening your power bill and not flinching. That's what solar can do. And by producing your own power, you can save between 20 to 100%, depending on what month it is, on your electricity costs. And most systems are paying for themselves within the first 5 to 10 years. Plus, with this net metering, you can earn credits for the extra power you produce in the summer and then use that to cut your winter bills. It's all tied up neatly with a bow. If this sounds like something you'd like to explore, make sure you check out kuby.ca. That's kuby.ca/solar for a free quote and more information. Kubi is solar simplified and people powered. And we want to give a big shout out to our friends at California Closets. This Canadian owned and operated business, proudly headquartered in Edmonton and Calgary, is providing the best custom closets and storage solutions for the entire home. Johnny's showing us this beautiful video right now. I love what they can do with staircases. Their designers are masters of finding ways to integrate storage solutions into your home that really flows with and elevates the design and meets your expectations of high quality. As a matter of fact, they've got the different investment levels. You can learn more about that on their website. If you think you can't afford California Closets, think again. But every single one of those levels comes with the lifetime guarantee. That's right. As long as you own that home, the California Closet installation is guaranteed. You can request that free consultation. Connect with their incredible design team today by visiting their website, californiaclosets.ca.
They can build tons of nooks and crannies for you to hide all your nicotine products.
Was that
false backs to the?
Was that a Saturday Night Live skit? You can put your weed in there. I don't remember. Was that? I don't know. That might have been Mad TV. I don't remember. Yeah. So on the vaping front, it's like, I think for a lot of people it becomes a regular thing. You see a lot of people. I know. I think it was Kathy here. Who was it? Somebody that the comments have been amazing today. By the way, maybe it was Tracy that said that said vaping is becoming such an issue in schools. I think they meant in high school. They said that they're now installing like vape detectors because it's actually been a thing. I've heard of like kids vaping in classrooms until the teacher cracks down.
What is even?
Well, it's become like the doctor said, because it doesn't reek. Because you think of like cigarettes, or let's be honest, when people would try to like get into a concert and they'd want to fire up a joint. Once it's burning until you put it out, then it stinks. But with vapes, you can kind of like on the down low, you kind of take a hoot. The people are like blowing. You see that big telltale plume, and then it kind of disappears, and it doesn't typically smell offensive. I recognize some people are saying they don't love the smell. I don't know. I've smelled like blueberry, mango, fine by me. But you see it like in a movie theater.
Smell is minimal too.
The cloud just like rises up. So there's the recreational users. There's the people that are trying to get off smoking, and then there's the people that, like you just talked about, when you're feeling the crunch, when you're feeling the pinch,
sure,
when you're hammering down at work, a couple hoots, and you kind of chill out.
Yeah, compared to the smell of say, cannabis or smoking, I think vaping is pretty like for non-smokers. I don't know why they wouldn't be on board with it, because it is so much more, undetectable, so to speak. But in general, I mean, what's worse, using some puffs of a vape privately, that doesn't make anyone smell, that is not as critically injuring to your health, or using all the other things people use that are legal, like cannabis, like alcohol, or the things that are illegal, like drugs. I see vaping, obviously it's not a thing. I don't want to say I'm embarrassed, but I am. Like, I try, you still kind of try to hide it. You know what I mean? I'm not like vaping out in public, trying to show everyone my cool, like, O's I can blow with it or anything. It's still, to me, and I'm not looking down on anyone, but a slight that I have an addiction, right? That it's something I can't kick.
Would you
Maybe
describe it
a
as
willpower.
an addiction, actually?
Oh, it is an addiction. I used it to transition from cigarettes, but now I know that within the next year or so, I won't be vaping anymore. And so that proves to me that, like what the doctor was saying, it can be a great alternative to get you off smoking. However, if you've never smoked before, that's the thing with me. To kids everywhere, I would just say, don't try nicotine at all. Don't get addicted to nicotine. Not because of, if you find a safer way to do it, the health aspects, number one in general, but just the cost of it alone, and just having something like that kind of, it hampers me down. Like vaping can, for me, who's someone who's done it for a few years now, to transition off of smoking, there are times when it makes me feel lethargic, or it makes me feel tired, where, I do wake up kind of like, the night before, if I had a lot of it, your lungs kind of feel shitty in the morning. So like, it's not really something I look at and say there's positives to
personal
it, right?
question. Do you buy your vapes? Do you buy them all from like regulated stores? Like, do they come with like a Health Canada? I've never bought a nicotine vape. Does it have like a Health Canada, like a duty paid, like, does it look regulated? Or like, do you go on the, I know a lot of people, for a number of different things, including like we talked about psilocybins. We talked about psychedelics, like basically shrooms, with the doctors, with Sheila and Shazma yesterday. That's our August 11th episode. Such a good episode, by the way. What a wake-up call on skin cancer, and more from a real talker before this episode's up on our food expiry conversation. She's a food scientist, wrote into the show, but I thought it was interesting talking about, like, some of the mental health treatments, and very personalized treatments that are being explored, invoking psilocybins, like using shrooms, basically microdosing. Most people are familiar with that, I think. But the fact of the matter is like, it's not legal. Like, you cannot legally buy mushrooms especially as a recreational user anywhere in Canada. So people are going to these black market sites. They appear to be, I'd show them to you right now.
That sounds wild to me.
But, they appear to be very reputable. The products appear to be very good, but like, it is a completely unregulated market. So, when it comes to something like psychedelics, I'm going to make a joke here, but like, for some people it wouldn't be funny. But if like, the guy that's making the chocolates misdoses the chocolates, or if one part of the chocolate gets way more than the other part of the chocolate, and then you are tripping balls at Folk Fest, like, worst case scenario, you're not going to die, but like, worst case scenario, you have a pretty rough night. But that's like, that's not going to happen with products. You're not going to get a regulated, a beer that goes through the government agency and is sold in a liquor store that all of a sudden is accidentally 30% alcohol. It's not going to happen. Well, but I think a lot of people are buying cannabis, mushrooms, for sure vape products, and probably a lot of other stuff. I don't know if you can buy blow by mail. Maybe some people do. I know a lot of people use Craigslist to get it in the States.
Wouldn't recommend it.
But I'm just saying, like and this was a recurring theme in live chat as well. The unregulated market, that is an area for concern. And when Dr. Tyndall's talking about vapes, he's not talking about ones that you're buying, off like Facebook Marketplace, right?
I wouldn't know. Like I've never bought, an unregulated nicotine product. I go right into a vape store. Also, I'm not, and this isn't me like downplaying. I know I'm addicted to nicotine. Believe me, I'll be the first to raise my hand and say, yes, Your Honor. But I don't go and buy, like I don't have my own machine. Like a lot of people buy the liquid, right? Because it's cheaper to buy the liquid, and they fill a machine that they've paid, $80,
Right.
$100, $200, whatever for. And that's how they use it. I'm not that type of person. I buy like a pre-filled whatever, and it lasts me like 2 weeks, which to a lot of people, when I say that, they're like, wow, I go through one in like 2 days, 3 days. Again, not trying to downplay like I'm some not as addicted person. But yeah, when you buy it, I mean, it's just like going in and buying like cannabis. Like for me, because I don't buy it from anywhere except a vape shop. I walk in, everything's behind the counter. You look, you point, they give it to you. It's in a box just like cigarettes. It has warnings on it. You open it up, it's inside plastic inside there. You open it up, it's also got, tappings where you put your mouth and different spots that you got to pull stickers off. So it's not just like whatever.
That's
so
to
me,
6-year-olds can't get a go. That's not so 16-year-olds.
No,
can't.
but
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's very, it's for me, my experience, very regulated. But I think what you're talking about with vaping products on the black market, I would think that's liquid. Like people, in bulk.
They call it vape juice.
Vape
Can we come
juice,
we come up with another name for that? That is the most disgusting sounding product.
I wouldn't think people are marketing pre-packaged vape machines, like building them themselves, but I'm not sure. That's something we'd have to ask the doctor. But yeah, I've never bought a product like that. But one more thing I wanted to say is that I also don't look at other people and think, like, even though I'm a little embarrassed myself, that look down on them when I see them vaping, no matter what age they're. You never know what someone's gone through. Maybe they're using it to transition off smoking. Maybe they're using vaping, maybe they're in AA. Maybe they're coming off hard drugs.
Sure.
I have no idea.
100%.
And maybe this is just a vice to get them by. But again, and I'll say this throughout the episode till the very end, to anyone like growing up right now, kids, anyone I would meet, I would just say, nicotine sucks, because it gets a hold of you. It's expensive. And it is kind of like a thing where, like, I'm kind of ducking behind stuff.
Yeah.
A little embarrassed of my willpower there,
Well, I mean, I appreciate.
But I'm happy to be
first
off
of all,
nicotine,
Let me
right?
just say, like, I appreciate
smoking.
You
cigarettes.
sign up, to do this job, and we pick and choose, like, when we'll share things about our personal life, and I appreciate you sharing, because I think that there's a lot of value there. In the live chat powered by Park Power, I lost the comment because there's been so many of them today. I apologize. I think it was John. Somebody said I'm grateful that I'm so cheap. Said because I've never been able to justify cigarettes or booze or vaping, anything like that. Erica says, and Erica, this is a good point, but she says, I've never understood the notion to say this unhealthy habit is slightly less terrible than this other unhealthy habit, so do that one instead. She says, how about don't do either?
Oh, easy to say, right?
And for a lot of people, like it sounds like for Erica, absolutely 100% true. There's also a lot of people, like, I watched a loved one the other day go through like half a bag of Spitz sunflower seeds.
Jeez.
And I was just like, it was impressive. It was incredible. I've never seen anybody crush sunflower seeds like that. But for some people, maybe you get a little fidgety. Maybe it's the way that your brain is wired.
Sure.
Maybe it's whatever it is. But for some people, and I think for many people, you're looking for something, right? Like there's a reason why an addiction is like the very clear answer or the quick answer on this, but I think there's more to it. For a lot of people, there's, you're fidgety. Like I know for a lot of people,
might be a hand-to-mouth thing.
For some people, exactly. There's almost like that placebo effect of like, I remember hearing a buddy that told me when he was trying to quit smoking, he lives in Vancouver. His commute was like an hour each way. And he said that he would drive, he had a stick shift. And when his hand was on the stick shift, he'd drive with a pen between his fingers where the cigarette used to be. He just like needed something between his fingers as his hand rested on the gear shifter. Like it's people just like, I don't know, some people look to whether it's like elevate or enhance their experience in life. Like there's a reason why people are drawn to Molly and LSD. There's a reason why people are drawn to mushrooms. That's not like a regular daily thing, I don't think, for most people. But there's a reason why a lot of people, including myself, would enjoy cannabis before going to a concert, before going out to eat a meal, before attending something, because you feel that it like enhances your experience in that moment. Other people totally can't relate, and that's not for everybody, and that's totally fine, right? People are wired very differently, I think.
I envy those people who have never, had something kind of get a hold of them, right?
Yeah.
But, it's for me, it's like I said, it's not something like I don't wake up and like, oh, I can't wait to get in my car and have a coffee and vape. It's for me, and that's why I know I'm at the point where like I'm kind of near the end of it, is it's kind of like, oh, I got to do this again, my body still needs this kind of thing. It doesn't need as much anymore because as I'm kind of like less and less, and I'm so grateful. And I mean, I told you this story about 10 years ago when I quit nicotine or smoke cigarettes altogether. I was outside a hotel venue after doing a big event and saw someone smoking. I remember the last drag of a cigarette I had so vividly, asking this person at 3 a.m, hey, give me a cigarette, lighting it up, taking a drag. And this is when I had transitioned off onto vaping, and I just remember inhaling and being like, why did I ever like this? It's disgusting. I knew that it was over for me, and I'm looking forward to the day when I do that with vaping, although it's incredibly delicious, I will say.
Yeah, all of that, and then it's delicious. I want to get to a ton of these comments. Jillian says this guy's heart is in the right place. Dr. Tyndall, she says, but the vape companies aren't here to help smokers. She says that's like in Titanic when Billy Zane grabbed the kid who wasn't his. We're trying to save smokers. She says, I wanted to read Marie's comment as well. She says, Marie says that her friend's daughter had repeated spontaneous pneumothoraxes, almost died from vaping. I'm not sure what that is, Marie, but I'll take it your word, and I appreciate you sharing that. There's been like a ton of comments here as well of people, I think, just sort of like trying to get a sense of what motivates Dr. Tyndall. I think it's clear that harm reduction has been his life's work and his calling for sure, right? Like he's very clear about that. As a public health doctor, as a harm reduction specialist for like 30 years. And when he talks about like, the moral panic around vaping, I like that he invoked that phrase, right? Because harm reduction advocates are swimming against the stream, like almost always. Right? Like he said the same thing when he's talking about his own career. He says, talking about like needle exchanges, talking about supervised consumption services. We've talked about that a ton. I've told you all before. My brother worked at Insight on East Hastings for years and has given me, he's appeared on this show before and has given a very, like Guy Filichella has been on the show before talking like straight up truths about harm reduction. And a lot of people, and I don't think that this is too much of a leap to be talking about opioids and nicotine and tobacco and cancer. I mean, it's all part of the public health conversation. Some people cannot wrap their minds around the fact that you can bring your drugs, into a medical facility like Insight in Vancouver, which, by the way, saves lives every single day. It's undeniable. Nobody's ever died at Insight ever. And have your drugs tested. Yes, these are illicit drugs. Yes, these are illegal drugs. They are. The drugs can be tested to see whether or not there's, what the level of fentanyl is, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They can't believe that you can inject or use illegal drugs under the supervision or in close proximity to public health professionals. They cannot wrap their minds around it. I would say that has been led by politicians who have other political priorities, who are supported by donor or volunteer bases, by voters who have strong opinions on what the war on drugs should look like, what effective drug policy looks like. And then you have people who are like medical doctors and scientists who understand the nuances of this, who understand and have taken a look at and studied legislative and political policy around the world, and they're looking at what works. They know what doesn't work, and a lot of times they're speaking truth to power. They're speaking against the establishment. So I don't think that Dr. Tyndall comes on here. The guy's not supported by Big Vape. The guy's not getting paid by the tobacco companies. But I think he's also has 30 years of experience in saying, I know that you may not like to hear this, or this may not be what you are expecting me to say, but based on the evidence, here is my informed opinion. And,
Yeah.
and that's why I think that, I mean, he brings a lot of credibility to the table, whether or not people agree with him.
Yeah, and I think I agree with him 100%. I think nicotine can be a great harm reduction tool, and that's why I don't look down on people who vape, even though I'm someone who wants to give it up. But yeah, again, bringing it back to kids, I think they just to me. If the goal is to get someone off something else or use it as a harm reduction tool, I feel like having it at a younger age could prime you for other substance abuse triggers or maybe make you open to other addictions, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely, I mean, what's the first thing when you go into a treatment center? They say like nothing is allowed in except cigarettes, right? Because it kind of, or nicotine products, because they can help you along your journey. So
Interesting.
I think they can. But the last thing I'll say is like, I don't think nicotine, maybe the act of smoking, like I said, to someone back in the day, today it already feels like it's banned. But like everyone's got their vice, and we've got all these other things that are horrible for you that are legal. I just don't see. I can't believe your friend made that bet with you that smoking was going to be banned.
Got it,
in 10
and he's
years.
now he's like a very successful financial manager. So I got to get my $100.
I don't
and
see that
actually,
ever happening. No.
That was so I was due to collect on that in 2010. It was a 10-year bet, and he was the smoke. By the way, he was the most enthusiastic smoker, and he was the one that figured it was going to be banned. He's also like a very small government guy. The generous word would be libertarian, but yeah, if he could eliminate government altogether, he's more of an anarchist. But anyway, the point is, he still owes me $100 plus interest. It's like $1,000 right now, probably.
Yeah, I don't see America ever, banning smoking. I feel like that's like a freedom thing that would be brought up. But
this is great from 80s Fanify, who says, as a lifelong non-smoker, this is all new to me. Says, I am learning a lot from everyone today. That is music to my ears. Dubious says, most people I know who vape are hitting pure THC and flavoring all day and night because they aren't boomers replacing smokes. Says it's a whole different ball game.
Wow.
I mean, we could probably have different conversations about, what do you call? You don't call them tobacco vapes. What, nicotine vapes? What do you call them? It's not tobacco, right? It's I don't know much about it, but it's basically there's weed and not weed. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Probably two different conversations as well, right? Like I would suggest, like these cannabis vapes that we've talked about, very convenient. Pocket sized, and it basically means that a lot of people that probably wouldn't be like smoking weed at their job all day because they'd reek, number one, and get caught. But number two, I think if you're like in the urinal for 2 seconds, or you like poke your head around the door, around the corner, and like take quick hoots, I bet there's a lot of people that are using cannabis more regularly than they would when it was back in the combustion days.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Interesting other comments here from T6 says, can we get something straight? This guy's, he says he's not he's only promoting vaping as a substitute for cigarettes. I don't think he's like selling vaping as something that a person should start doing. Others are saying that they'd be shocked if only 15% of teens were vaping. I don't know. I mean, I have limited sample sizes on that, anecdotally or otherwise. I'd be curious to hear from high school teachers what they have to say about that too.
I did
right?
like how he brought up, kind of the fear mongering, because there is like, as soon as I started using vaping to transition from cigarettes, that was all I heard was like, your vape is going to blow up in your mouth and make a hole in your face. And, you're going to get popcorn lung and all these things. And, it coats the inside of your throat with poisons and stuff like that. And now I know we don't have decades of research, but now we're seeing more and more that like a lot of this was way overblown. And these instances of, popcorn lung, like he was talking about, and vapes blowing up and people, they're very low risk, right? So it is a lot lower risk than all these other things we do to fill our needs.
I saw a great comment from Krabby Chris, said something along the lines of that they used cannabis edibles to get off vodka.
Wow.
Yeah, and said that it was made a huge and dramatic difference, and Krabby Chris said harm reduction works. Gilles says the reason. What's up, Gilles? Nice to see you in the chat, buddy. Gilles, one of our longtime volunteers at the Real Talk Golf Classic. Boy, do we appreciate him. Best dressed guy on the course. Gilles says the reason for the regulation of nicotine pouches was because it was being advertised and sold to preteens. I mean, that's another thing too, right? Packaging, how they reach the youth of tomorrow. I mean, that's a big thing. I saw Jillian said if people are truly trying to get off smoking, there's no reason for vape flavoring. Says vapes should taste exactly like cigarettes. Can you imagine? Maybe. I mean, I don't think she's joking. Randy says, I really don't think people are just waking up in the morning to say, I think I want to go get addicted to nicotine today. Amanda says people who are addicted to drinking calm down with a drink, but their cortisol levels are sky high. It doesn't mean that your coping mechanism is good for you. That from Amanda, which is a great point and an important point, I think, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to know. I know that we're going to get probably some flamethrower submissions on this to talk at ryanjespersen.com if that's resonated. Of course, we roll that out our final episode of every week. That's going to be on obviously Friday of this week. That'll be the 15th of August. You can send us an email to talk at ryanjespersen.com with your thoughts on that. Tony says her cousin went to Mexico a few weeks ago, said that smoking cigarettes still allowed in certain places in the resorts, but vaping is banned everywhere. She says they couldn't really wrap their minds around that. That's kind of interesting policy. I would imagine we're going to see more vape. Like, I think that the more organizations, it was Tracy earlier that said that the school was involving installing vape detectors. I don't know how those would work.
I don't even know what that
like a
would
vapor
entail.
detector. I don't know. I mean, it's like maybe the smoke detectors don't catch it, so they need the vape detectors. But like, I mean, are people vaping? I'm not saying do it. Don't do it. But like, are people vaping in airplane bathrooms? Like, does that set off the? I don't know. Like,
I assume they are. I've not to narc
I mean, you can
on
get yourself
anyone.
arrested. Don't.
Not to narc on anyone, but I've seen people vaping on planes. I can tell because I'm someone who, I don't do it, but I'm someone who can kind of spot it. I've seen, and I've been on a plane with a friend who kind of has, taken a few puffs and blown it downwards and whatever. So, I mean, yeah, I think people are doing it secretly or whatever, but people are also doing it out in the open. Man, they're I don't even want to push this, but they're crazy YouTube channels. Like it's like the Vape Olympics, like
really?
blowing these clouds of smoke and like doing
I know what I'm watching
incredible. Like
you're sending me
it's
down.
like
You're sending us all down a rabbit hole.
It's like making balloon animals with your vape smoke.
Yeah.
But again, kids, don't do it.
Yeah. Les, I want to recognize a couple of comments here. They make me laugh, but Les says, get someone on who can talk about the dangers of vaping. I mean,
we had them on yesterday.
Well, yeah, we just had two doctors on yesterday, but Mark is was the former director of the BC Center for Disease Control. Like Mark doesn't own a vape shop. I didn't go to like my buddy Mark, who owns the fucking vape shop down the street, who wants to come in and talk about why you should vape. Ms. KD says, why do we never get counter views on this show? Like, we just had a Jew and a Palestinian on 3 episodes ago. Guys, I don't understand the comments, but like, you don't always need to have like when you bring on a physician who's like an infectious disease and public health doctor who's got a book, like who am I going to bring on to counter him? Like someone like a Chicken Little Sky is falling, like going out without knowing what Dr. Tyndall's going to say, go out and get somebody who's going to like, sort of like induce moral panic and then have Mark fight with them on the show. I guess we could do that, but I would prefer, this is maybe something I could write in a more personal email to some viewers who reach out with concerns, like evaluate the credibility of the guest before you attack the fact that there's not somebody here to attack them. Like, I want to talk to a guy about his book, so we bring him on to talk about his book. But like, there are always counter views on the show, and then we spend like 40 minutes after the interview reading all your comments. So I'll take your criticism, but I hope that you can consider editorially the integrity of these conversations.
You're very good at taking criticism. It's like it's your job.
I love taking criticism,
hear?
and I welcome the criticism, but when someone says we never have counter views
Not
on
at
the
all.
show, it's actually a comical criticism of this show, because I don't know of a talk show. I'm getting a little bit defensive here, so I got to
It's
chill.
okay. Do you want to hear about vape detectors?
Hang on a second.
Do you want to hear about vape detectors?
I just need to chill for a second so I can accept the criticism. And obviously, I'm having some fun with you here, guys. But I don't know of a talk show that's going to go into the dirtier, murkier, muckier areas on the left side of the political spectrum, on the right side of the political spectrum, that'll explore harm reduction, that'll bring on people that provide opinions that are maybe different than what you expected or not part of the mainstream. It's something that we take pride in. And again, like, we welcome your feedback. If there's somebody else that you think that their credibility reaches the bar where Dr. Tyndall's is, if there's somebody that has a different position on this, that has like 30 years in public health, a respirologist, like somebody, some of you are suggesting like we should get a pediatrician on, which is a fun and a cheeky suggestion. Somebody says maybe you should bring a pediatrician on and ask if they would like for their young patients to be vaping. Well, like, what do you think? We're not setting up, like, go to ryanjespersen.com/vape to get your vapes at 30% off. Get your Real Talk branded vapes. At the same time, I think that we also want to bring real life perspectives to this and not pretend that people aren't indulging in things that they find like maybe add a little enjoyment to their lives that help them relax, what have you.
I tend to think everyone's got a vice, whether it's food or whatever it is.
Religion.
Yeah. So vape detectors are electronic devices designed to sense and alert when someone is vaping. They work differently than regular smoke detectors because vape aerosol isn't the same as smoke. So they use a multitude of things to factor in on whether someone's vaping. Particle sensors, chemical sensors, and they also, some of them detect humidity or air quality changes. Modern vape detectors are used pretty widely in North America right now, and in schools mostly. So that's why I've never heard of them or seen them, I guess, because I'm no longer in school. But they can send real-time alerts to a phone or building security system, integrate with cameras.
Oh, boy.
They're discreet, very hard to tamper with, and they detect both nicotine and cannabis.
So they're going to go to the principal is going to be getting a notification on her phone
Bloop.
that
Judy's in the...
Judy and Jill are vaping again in bathroom number 3. By the way, Miss Katie follows up. I got to read this. I always promise you guys I try to read all your follow-up if possible. She says, I take that back, by the way. She says, we did have the education minister and the librarian on. Also a good point. Thanks. Jill says, every other show does the shouty debates with people trying to one-up each other and create viral clips of everybody being owned. But on this show, each side gets their time to fully lay out their thinking. I think we do a bunch of different approaches to it. Sometimes we have debates. Sometimes we have one-on-one. We tried to cook up a debate the other day between the Forever Canadian folks, Thomas Lukazik, Premier Ed Stelmach, and the separatists like Jeff Rath and the lawyers, and both sides were like, fuck that. neither of them. I thought that would be an incredible episode because it would be. It would get 1 million views. Yeah. But neither of them wanted to be a part of that, which I thought was pretty awesome. Jill also is wondering, did I wear sunscreen on the golf course yesterday? The answer is yes.
Oh, my gosh.
I did. And I was also talking, thank you for the accountability, Jill. I was also talking to my buddies about my next $1 billion idea. Why is nobody making and again, I'm just putting this in front of the public. If somebody wants to take this and run with it, and maybe give me credit, send me a free case once you've manufactured them. Why is there no product on the market that is a combo sunscreen insect repellent?
Oh,
why is
I'm
there
sure
not?
There is. What?
Well, is there?
I don't know.
I mean, I've got 2
Sounds like a
canisters in my golf bag, and room is precious in there, as you know, golfers, wink, wink. And I got to have an insect repellent and a sunscreen. Johnny's vigorously searching, so we'll find out if the product does exist.
Yeah, I'll have to go buy Sephora on the way home because I also ordered like an SPF 45 kind of moisturizer. It's like, cause I told you I had like the skincare routine my partner's got me up on. Like I used to
obviously working. You look fabulous.
Well, I used to just be like bar soap, 3-in-1, conditioner, shampoo, body wash kind of person. Now I've got like these stages or whatever. And so this last phase of kind of my routine every day now is to kind of, cap everything with an SPF, which is like light. And I was reading up on it. I ordered it. I'm going to pick it up after because the things we were talking about melanoma and the fact that the doctor on the show yesterday, Dr. Shazma, said that out of all the cancers, that's the one that scares her the most.
Yeah, man.
And then the pictures of those drivers that we saw where like the driver's side of them,
like truckers, career truck drivers,
their face is just like melted on one side by the time they get to 70. That was really eye-opening.
And those were like, I mean, and it was like a CBS News report. It was we showed you the photos on CBSNews.com. In other words, they're not like, it's not like something you see on Instagram and you never know what you can believe and what you can't. I thought those photos for sure were edited. Like I just thought there was no way. Check out our episode August 11th. It's a good one to watch on YouTube if you want to see what we're talking about. But like it's like 2 different people. It looked like a before and after, but in the wrong direction. Do you know what I mean? Pretty wild stuff. Kenzie in our chat says, I don't know why people feel like they got to ban everything they don't like or feel like they need to protect others. Which Kenzie is a fair point. And there is that kind of tendency with humans. I would also say, though, on the public health stuff, probably a big part of conversations, for example, on smoking is that there's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is
costs
nothing,
us money. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing else on planet Earth that is more harmful to us. Someone's going to give me a smart answer in the chat and be smarter than me. But there's really nothing else on planet Earth that does more harm to us that we know about
for sure
that is legally available than cigarettes, right?
Yeah,
like cigarettes, even, and Mark talked about this in our interview, like even the amount of taxes, they call them sin taxes, the amount of tax you collect, and cigarette packs, what are you guys paying now? I think they're like $23 a pack, I think, unless you're buying them, like some people get them, they fell off the back of the truck, you get them for a little bit less, but like, so much of that is taxes. And everybody goes, okay, well, that's good. That can fund all the research on heart disease and strokes and
I
everything
was
else.
just going to say heart
Not
disease
a chance.
is probably the only other thing I would think of.
Negative. There's no way that the taxes on cigarettes cover the cost to society and to the healthcare system. So Kenzie, that's like the one thing I would say why I do think it is a little bit everybody's business.
Yeah. And also with heart disease, like you can be more susceptible to it or not. It can be run in your family. It's a lot to do with diet. Like it's understanding your overall health over time, over your whole life. Like smoking, we know everyone is susceptible to cancer if you smoke.
Yes.
If you smoke your whole life, we hear those ones, you always hear the stories that are like, oh, my grandma smoked for 80 years. She was fine. Well, okay, that's an outlier. Like we know the majority of people, if you smoke your whole life, you're going to get probably some form of cancer or another, or die of respiratory issues, right? Like my grandmother did, who smoked for many years. Here's that photo you were talking about. If we want to,
look at that guy's face. So this guy's a career truck driver, and obviously, on your right, if you're looking at the screen, on his left, that's the side that's obviously, like, to state the obvious, that's his driver's side window, right? Like that's where the sun's hitting that guy.
This hit me when I saw it.
And like his, respectfully, I don't really, for the benefit of those listening on the podcast, that's like the face of like, respectfully, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like that's the face of a 95-year-old, right? And on his passenger side face, on the face that was getting the
looks about
shade,
65, 70.
well, he looks phenomenal. That's the face of like a 40-year-old. Like honestly, I've never seen anything like it. And the eyelids,
it's wild.
It looks
wild. It looks like movie makeup.
Yeah.
And so that alone, and then as I was driving home yesterday, the sun was out, and I'm like, kind of leaning away from the window.
Well,
and so, SPF is going to be a thing I'm going to add just as a thing daily.
Blah Sheep says, I vaped for a little bit because I was close to starting smoking. I got rid of the urge to start. Interesting. Says, I don't vape or smoke. Says, well, a cigar once a month, but that's it. That's a whole different category of folks that can smoke cigars intermittently. And I know that cigars and cigarettes, the experience is very different. I love cigars. I'm meeting a buddy tomorrow night to go smoke a cigar. It's a passion. It's an area of interest. Johnny gifts me a beautiful one for my birthday every single year.
Yeah, even though I don't understand it. It's not a thing I've ever.
When I smoke a cigar, I have zero desire to smoke a cigarette.
Oh, okay.
But I've told you about my buddy's dad before, Donnie, who's just a wonderful guy. Was able to kick his heavy smoking habit many, many years ago. I remember offering him a cigar at our wedding, and he said to me, he goes, buddy, he says, if I have one puff of that cigar, he goes, I'll be right back on cigarettes. I have no doubt about it.
Really?
Like just the way that he knew he needed to manage. Do you call it recovery in all circumstances? I don't know. He quit smoking, and he knew that to stay quit, he couldn't even dally. He couldn't dabble with a cigar. He figured he'd be right back on cigarettes. So that's kind of interesting. Super Chat Ken says, wait a minute. He says it's a fine line between they love smoking. This is when I said smokers love smoking. He says it's a fine line between they love smoking and they're addicted. He says smokers need to smoke. Ken, 100% true, and a very good point. Others of you are talking about seeing people double up. Tommy Temper says that he saw a kid walking
vaping
with a vape hand and a nicotine hand with two vapes in their hand.
I thought you were going to say like with a mouth pouch and a vape. That's crazy. I'm looking at some of the stats for so cigarettes, the average, they deliver about 10 milligrams per nicotine.
Is
total.
that right?
Cigar, it's crazy. It's 150 milligram total, but you're only absorbing 30 to 40%.
Well, don't inhale.
But still, the fact that you said you don't need a cigar or a cigarette when you have a cigar, or it doesn't, it clearly you're getting more nicotine from a cigar even when not inhaling. So, yeah.
T6 says, I quit smoking 20 years ago. Says, even this conversation is giving me anxiety
dude,
cravings.
I feel you. I feel you.
T6 says, sometimes I dream I've been smoking. When I wake up, I'm relieved it was just a dream.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm right in that boat, and that's why I want to get out of that boat eventually. Is because I know it's before it used to be a thing to relax and kick your heels up and you have a drink and then you have a smoke after whatever. Now it's kind of weighing me down. But man, I have the same thing where I have dreams, nightmares of where I'm DJing and I can't mix properly, and then I grab my vape and I wake up and my hands in my.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my hand and it's just, it's a nightmare.
How about this one from Gerald, who's watching us live on Facebook? What's up, Gerald? Says, don't smoke. He quotes Yul Brynner, who died from cancer. He says, don't smoke. Just don't smoke. That's my advice. Wyatt, our 10-year-old, he's got questions about all the things he sees around him. He was asking me about cigarettes the other day. I put both hands on both shoulders and looked him right in the eye, and I said, I want you to make me a promise at 10 years old. I'm going to talk to you at 12, 16, 18, 25. I said, I don't want you to ever try smoking. I don't want you to ever try a cigarette.
It's also the modern version of smoking, like buying these things produced, manufactured, jacked up with tar, nicotine, chemicals. Like the idea of smoking nicotine, that's rooted in heritage culture from way back, like indigenous cultures, piping, all these, like every culture had nicotine in it in some form, but it was can I say it was a lot more natural? You know what I mean? And now it's marketed, it's pushed on people. That's the part I don't like, right?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I feel like this conversation, it's not stopping in the live chat. As a matter of fact, it's just taken off. And I just want to recommend that if you're able to catch the show live and participate in these conversations, it adds so much to our understanding of the issues. A lot of times, as you've heard in past, we're taking questions directly from the live chat, putting them right in front of the guests, which is the idea. But statistically, like more than 95% of you are going to catch this later. And so, we also welcome your feedback to talk@Jespersen.com. This definitely does not, this is not like the definitive episode on this. We can follow up, we can explore new avenues, we can bring different guests to the table. But I do recommend that you read up on Dr. Tyndall and his work. Again, we'll link to his website in the show notes on the podcast and on YouTube. And again, you can check out his book, Vaping, Behind the Smoke and Fears.
It's funny how people always ask us for a show. They say, hey, do a show on vaping. Then we do the show on vaping. And now we have to do 5 more shows because it's just divided people even more, right? But we've been meaning to do this more, is follow up, right? Follow up. So yesterday we had doctors, obviously talking against vaping. Today we had someone who wasn't really advocating for vaping, but was kind of dispelling some of the rumors and some of the misinformation out there and saying that it can be a great harm reduction tool. I've always thought that. I've always thought I just feel everyone's got their vice, even if it isn't alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, porn, overeating, salty food. I feel like everyone's got something that they use as a tool to calm them down, to relieve stress, to prevent them from doing something even more harmful. So, I mean,
and that could be anything. I'm not trying to be a smart ass.
Not at all.
That could be prayer.
Overconsumption of anything.
Prayer. It could be yoga.
Whatever
it could be chamomile tea. It could be going for a run. It could be ripping lines.
I think everybody's
different.
Everyone has a form of addiction in their life, even if they don't want to admit it, right?
Erica, and I cannot accuse her of being wrong, says, Jespo, to be fair, if you're smoking weed and having beers on the golf course, every idea probably sounds like $1 billion idea. Erica, that is very fair. Ken says, she's probably right. Ken says that, but although I've told you my last $1 million idea that ended up getting manufactured without my participation nor my investment, I was talking along the candy cane striped extension cords. Beautiful, right?
That is a good
everybody
idea,
puts so much time and so much effort into their Christmas lights, or they put something that needs an extension cord around the holiday, and then they have these ugly ass orange extension cords. I thought, why not stripe them candy cane? And my sister-in-law Tammy always used to laugh, and then guess what? One Christmas, Tammy had this look on her face. She was just so proud of herself as I'm unwrapping my gift. She was so excited for me to unwrap this gift, and her excitement was to the level that part of me thought, I bet you this is a candy cane striped extension cord.
Was it?
And sure enough, it was. So there you go. But Ken says the problem with the combo sunscreen bug spray is that they're on 2 ends of the consumer health awareness spectrum.
Ooh.
He says, I use both, but large scale sales could be a problem. That from Ken. Ken, there's probably a reason why these huge, like Johnson & Johnson or whoever, Procter & Gamble doesn't have a product on the market, right? On the spirit of following up, and before we let you know who's coming up on the show tomorrow, we did want to revisit our episode on the 11th of August. This was honestly every single time we get a chance to check in with the co-hosts of the Doc Talk. That's Dr. Shazma Mathani that you're seeing, an ER doc out of Edmonton, and Dr. Sheila Wijayasinha, a family doc out of Toronto, also kind enough to join us right here in our studio in the historic Mercer Warehouse right here in downtown Edmonton. Awesome. Conversation about a bunch of different stuff. The E. coli story out of that restaurant in Calgary, the salmonella, this pistachio recall. How many people have that on their radar?
There's an addiction.
You want to? No kidding. How many people just spent $21 on a bag of pistachios
and then you eat the whole thing in one night?
Well, and then they find out that there's a salmonella concern. I'm not saying all of them.
The worst is the pistachios. They're already shelled. Those bags are the worst.
No, but that's
just
not.
like,
Why would you do
it's
that?
Because you use it in cooking, but you just go.
But no, the shell is intended to be there to pace your pistachio consumption.
It's part of the addiction.
You can't just if you just you start turning your hand into, like, my 3-year-old calls them the digger, the backhoe. Yeah. You start turning your hand into the digger if they're not in the shell. You need them in the shells. You do.
It's like peanuts. Like, I get bar peanuts because it gives you something to do and fidget. But at home, I just got the planters in the jar, and I literally just drink a little handful and then put it back in there.
All right, I guess.
But yeah, those pistachios, man, those and avocados, those will really put a dent in your shopping budget.
No kidding. But you won't get them fresher anywhere other than Freezing Brothers. Ooh. That's a fact. So anyway, we're talking to the doctors, Sheila and Shazma. They're both physicians. Obviously, they're also both moms. They bring that to the table too. So this perspective, we started talking about food and best before dates and expiry dates. And I shared my personal perspective on yogurt, which some of you aligned with and some of you found to be disgusting. Anyway, it prompted an email from Real Talker Steph, who wrote into the show after hearing it. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm a food scientist. And she says, I have so many comments from your episode on August 11th. She said, Real Talkers need to know that best before dates are based on quality and microbiological testing. She says, so for dairies, where I've worked, she says it's continuous testing. And when we can start to see microbial growth, that's when you need to draw the line. She says, for me, though, anecdotally at home, the sniff test is my guide. So when she's talking about dairy, so you're talking about milk or whatever, she says the sniff test. And most people know. Like, when your milk's off, you know it right away. She says for panko and flours, I had referenced ruining a meal.
Sure.
By trying to stretch. I said the panko breading, this wonderful breading, I said as if it's, we're past the best before date, like by a couple of years actually. But I was like, whew. But I'm like, it's dry flakes. Like, what's possibly wrong?
Bread.
Well, it was horrible.
Yeah.
It ruined we couldn't serve it. She says, so for panko, like you were talking about, for flour, she says there's oils, and so those can go rancid. And she says, and when you're tasting the staleness, that's what that is. And then she said, what most people don't realize is that chocolate expires. She says there's oils in it, and it can go rancid as well. And she says, definitely throw out old oils. She says, for Real Talkers that are proud of their collection, you've got every oil under the sun. You got your grapeseed oil, you got your coconut oil, you got all the different kinds of oils. She said, keep them out of the sun as well when you store them, and your oils will last longer. She says, I've worked as a food scientist in various number of roles, including at a dairy where she personally made aged cheddars. That from Real Talker Steph.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Kramer route on this. Remember the episode where he's like, I'm eating all fresh. I'm getting rid of my refrigerator. I'm gonna go buy food, eat it that day, But I about 2 months ago, I didn't even tell you about this, but I ate some rye bread that I was, I had a sandwich late at night, and I ate them like clearly moldy and like didn't know until I was ingesting it.
Yeah.
And it was, So when you're talking about the panko crumbs, I feel like, like breading of any kind, like that, 2 years. Woo. 2 years.
Oh, buddy, that's nothing.
And I'm the guy who always pushes the
I'm saying it is something, but what I'm saying is in my mind it was nothing because I've always been, I've always sort of thought, I've always taken comfort in this, and there's definitely a psychological thing at play here, but I've always taken comfort in having ample supply of things, right? Like if I'm hosting a party, you love having a plethora of you can't bring ketchup and mustard to a hot dog. You got to have relish, salsa, I
hot
can
sauce,
enjoy with
mayo.
ketchup and mustard, but I'd rather have it all.
You want all
and
of
mayo, like I would rather maybe have a Dijon mayo, or maybe have maybe I'd sort of have a wasabi mayo, or maybe I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But with that comes its downfalls, and having what Stephanie said there, Real Talker Steph, what she said about the oils, like that resonates with me because I love having if a friend comes over and we're going to cook and they go I don't know, what's an obscure oil? Like, I don't know, like avocado. Do you have avocado? I'm sure do. Do you have grapeseed oil? Sure do. But if you don't keep a handle on that stuff, if you're not keeping an eye on all the flour you have in your pantry, for example, you find yourself eating expired stuff. You can get sick. Blah Sheep in here says that they drank a glass of spoiled milk. Says I had the worst pain of my life. Spent the night in hospital. Says it smelled fine. The milk did, but I drank a glass. It was past its date, and then my stomach felt like it was going to explode. That from Blah Sheep, anecdotally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like salad dressings is another one on there where like I always look at my fridge and I'm like, why do I have these 4? I only use this one once and they always go bad. And then you grab one like months later, you shake it up, you're like, is this okay?
Yeah.
You throw it on a salad and now you've just destroyed the salad. But the mayos is another thing. Like if you buy a flavored mayo, it's kind of only for like one dish. You know what I mean?
Totally. You're right.
Or a sandwich or something like that.
You might
so if
broaden
you have
horizons.
multiple, it's eventually those things are going to get thrown in the garbage.
Also a bit of a different ball game when you entertain a lot, but Whiterium says we get it. Jespo's a fancy bitch when it comes to his hot dogs. I want to say 2 things. Number 1, I can crush a plain hot dog at a ballpark just like everybody else, and I love hot dogs and I will crush them, no problem. I'm not fancy, but that same trip to South America I was talking about earlier, these street vendors in Brazil, they call them completos. And anybody that's been there knows, Johnny, the base is like your classic hot dog, and then they add mashed potatoes on top. Then they add corn on top of that. Then they add like a crumble, like that could be crushed up potato chips. That could be like tortilla. It could be like anything, but some texture, some crumble on top of that. And I will say, maybe a little bacon bits on top of that if you want it. Thank me later. For those of you heading out camping this weekend, make yourself a completo and it will change your life forever.
Do you want to know the 3 most waste-prone or thrown-out items from fridges around North America?
What a good question. Yeah, what are the top 3?
Well, your guess.
The most thrown out?
Top 3.
I feel like strawberries. I'm going to say milk.
We're talking like condiments or canned or things like that.
Oh, most
so
thrown out meaning
things.
what? Like they go bad and they don't use them enough?
Things you buy once, open, and then they sit there and you got to...
Probably like a niche mayo like you described.
Boom, that's number 1, mayonnaise.
Oh, is that right?
Mayonnaise.
I think maybe Dijon mustard it might be there. I don't know. Tell us the 3.
Number 2 is what I said, salad dressings, especially those with cream in it. And number 3 will surprise you. It's pickles.
Who's throwing out pickles?
I don't know, because you open them once and the best before on some pickles is like 2 weeks. Some is 3 to 6 months or something like that. But yeah, apparently those are the 3 most waste-prone thrown-out items.
Okay.
Mayonnaise, and it says ones with special variants of different
so
kinds.
like your wasabi mayos and
creamy
stuff like
salad
that.
dressing and pickles.
Elias is watching right now, says, I hate how much produce I have to toss. I'm the
Me
same way.
too.
I hate food waste, which means that I will eat some, I'm not encouraging you to do this, okay? Don't do this. Talk to your doctor, small print, legal, yada, yada, yada. But I will eat questionable. I'm not talking about like raw chicken. I'm not talking about something, but like if there's like strawberries and bananas, classic example. I will eat brown bananas. I kind of choke them down, to be honest. I don't love them, but I'd rather eat them than throw them out. Strawberries, I find that the day before strawberries go totally bad is their best day. I think that like the strawberries start to soften a little bit. That's like my favorite kind of strawberries. Dubious shares my incredulous response to the fact that pickles go bad. I had no idea. Others of you, like Jordan makes really good points, says you guys got to also keep in mind oils can break down plastics. So when things are kept for a long time, you could be, not even realize you could be impacted by that too.
I try to repurpose when we're talking about fresh foods. Like, if the fruit's going bad, throw it all in a smoothie, right? You probably still get all the vitamins and minerals. It's not going to taste as bad. Like this happened yesterday. A small batch of spinach, like literally with like a quarter of it gone. I was like, I don't want to throw this out, but like tomorrow it's going to be mulch. I just threw it in a pan, kind of salt and pepper, like cooked it up. So I always try to repurpose before. I'm like you too as well. But man, 2-month-old panko. I don't know if I touched that.
Vamp Fashion says brown bananas are God herself telling you to make banana bread.
That's the best banana bread.
I agree with you 100%. For whatever reason, I actually really enjoy being in the kitchen. I've never really gotten into making banana bread. I don't know why. Maybe I'll start right now, prompted by Vamp Fashions. But I will say, like, again, from my hoarding tendencies, I like to call myself a collector, not a hoarder, because I know where everything is. But I had at one point, like, probably 20 frozen black bananas in my freezer.
I'm the culprit of that.
Because I'm like, one day I'm going to use it. And then ultimately I was like, I just get rid of these. What am I doing?
So I put them on the door of our freezer every time. Like, you get 4 go bad. I'm like, I can use these for smoothies because they are good. You freeze them, cut them open. They're great for smoothies. But as that door gets filled and then I open it weeks later, I notice my partner just slowly, like, she'll throw it half one day and then half the next day. But they're great in smoothies. They're really sweet.
Yeah. Dubious says there is absolutely no proper size of spinach available in stores to buy that actually gets completely used.
No.
It's true. You either buy the small one and you're screwed,
It's not
you run out,
enough.
or you get like the huge one that you're like, what is this even? It looks like someone that just mowed their lawn, and it's like, this is what you use
You
to
have to
collect
have
this.
salad 5 days in a row.
Yeah, and how about this from Tracy, who says, I buy a cucumber every couple of weeks just so I can throw it away 2 weeks later. Says, I love cucumbers, but they always get away from me. One of life's great joys, one of the simplest things to make, one of the best inventions on planet Earth, I think, is Greek salad.
Oh, yeah.
A little cucumber, a little tomato, a little red onion.
Tomatoes,
olive oil,
another one. Grape
oregano.
tomatoes.
Oh,
So
my
hard to
gosh.
get a
Oh,
handle
my
on.
gosh. Hey, before we go, I want to let you know what's coming up. But first, our friends at UCAN Youth Services, this is a huge year for them, 2025, and we're really proud to be partnering with them. Just wanted to make sure they're on your radar. Some of you might be checking out Real Talk for the very first time. The vaping brought you here. The engaging conversation prompted you to stay. Well, I will tell you from the bottom of our heart, we are partnered with UCAN Youth Services because we passionately believe in and support the amazing work that they're doing, helping young people out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. They've got career opportunities. You can check those out on their website when they pop up. It'll happen in real time at ucan.ca. That's also where you can check out more about their annual report. Obviously, disclosures, full transparency. This is an organization that does it right with demonstrable return on investment. If you've just got your tax return back, if you're doing your estate planning, if you've got a few extra bucks in your pocket, you're looking for a nonprofit that truly makes a difference in its community, may we humbly recommend UCAN Youth Services at ucan.ca.
Bring us your huddled, tired masses. Bring us your porn addicts, your vape addicts, your cheeseburger connoisseurs. We will not judge here on Real Talk.
We will not judge you.
Everyone's got their thing.
Yeah, although we will get a little bit touchy if you question our credibility in the live chat. I thought that was an important moment, back and forth. Me and Ms. KD have already made peace in the live chat again.
That's
We're
great.
already back to best buds.
Somebody just said in the live chat, pickles go bad? I've never thrown pickles out. See? So people just kind of...
who has had a jar of pickles that lasts long enough?
Someone
Clearly,
just said that. They
I have
last a week.
my relationship with Bill Pickles is like, let me just say, as we sign off, John, why don't you give us the moving music and we'll sign off with
Pickle
this.
outro?
By the way, Senator Charles Adler's coming back tomorrow. We're really excited to have him. If you want a snack, if you want to do something that'll wow kids and seniors alike, take mere moments of your time, deliver some nutritional value, and of course not leave you in the poorhouse, may I suggest the simple trio of a wheat thin, a little bit of a pickle, and a slice of cheddar cheese. It'll change your life forever. They call it the Jespo. No, not really, but I'd love if they did. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. One love.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.